This is the man who put 1,000,000 on black, and it came up black. This is the man who married a sex kitten, and she's still purring. This is the man who moved into gold, just before all the clever money moved in as well. This is the man who is chauffeured around in an S-Class Mercedes-Benz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Car Nerd Talks, where today I'm going to be talking to you about the S-Class and not about the S-Class overall as a car. That is a topic that I prefer to set into different S-Classes and spread it over time. Instead, I want to talk to you about the features of the S-Class, which were world firsts, and these specific features that I want to talk to you about are the ones that are on the car that you would normally drive today, like a Polo, Golf, any of the standard VW lineup would have these. Even a Ford or a Chevrolet of all things would have a lot of these features. So the idea is that I'm just going to run through the top 5 features that the S-Class did first. So yeah, before we do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Obviously, I'm trying to make some money here, guys. Don't be wasting my time. And also go on to Drive Tribe, check that out. That's where I'm going to be posting this because I absolutely love drivetribe.com. It is class. So a little backstory about the Mercedes S-Class. It wasn't originally called the S-Class. The original was the W150, which came out in 1951, and it was known as the Ponton. Not an S-Class at all. Then this was replaced in 1959 by the 108, which was known as the Fintail for some reason. And finally then the Stroke 8 or 108, W108, which was brought in 1965. It wasn't until 1972 that it became known as the S-Class, and a lot of people ask, why is it called the S-Class? It's called Sonderklasse. Sonderklasse. Sorry, my German's terrible. So the Sonderklasse is German for special class, and this was going to be their high-end S-Class. And the whole idea with the S-Class, which was true up until the mid-80s when there was the massive recession, was that price was not important. So essentially, the guys who were creating the S-Class in Mercedes had an unlimited budget, and that's why the Mercedes was always top class, driven by dictators. The S-Class was a dictator's favorite. Doesn't matter how bad of a person you are, it was the S-Class, and it was designed to kind of follow up from the days of the Grosser and those massive, staunch, horribly dictator-esque cars. So when they brought in the Sonderklasse or the S-Class in 1972, they really made a big deal about this. It was their first kind of S-range car, and they wanted to show off what Mercedes could do. So this had a lot of cool features, and I'm going to do reviews at some point, hopefully be able to get my hands on a few of them, but I'm going to do reviews in depth into these cars. But for today, I'm not going to go there. We're going to keep it light, breezy, and just jump through my top 5 favorite things that the Mercedes S-Class brought into the world as a world first on a car, and now you can get on a Ford Fiesta. So let's jump into it. So at number 5, and the reason it's at number 5 is because it's probably the least important on this list overall, but it is something that is so prolific that I felt it deserved a mention. It's on every car now, and no car really gets away with not having this anymore, even the low models, and that is of course a center mounted display. Now Mercedes were the first to do this because what they did in their 1999 Mercedes S-Class is they put a center mounted GPS in. So it was not only the first car with a center mounted display, it was also the first car with a center mounted GPS, and to be honest was the first production car with a GPS as standard. If you remember back at those times, you could buy the GPS, and even for long after that, most people, as you probably recall from being in taxis, were using a Garmin GPS or a TomTom, if anyone can remember them. I don't even know if they still exist. I sure remember making a lot of commission selling Garmins and TomToms, even 2008, 2009, straight through to 2014, 15. after which it became pretty normal to either just use your phone, because obviously Android and Apple's GPS system, well, Android's GPS system got pretty good. Apple's was basically Android's one using Google Maps until that complete horrible fuck up when they changed to Apple Maps and ruined everything. Nonetheless, Apple basically, no, not Apple, sorry, Apple and Mercedes get those confused because they both sell cars on brand and the quality is down on both of them at the minute, but let's not go there. Mercedes were the first ones to bring that in, and yeah, I figured I'd put it at number 5. It's not that huge of a deal, but center mounted display in the center console is something that's on every car now. You know, Mercedes did it first, so I think they deserve a little bit of yeah, fuck it. Number 4 on the list is safety electric windows. Now, you probably know that if you are in any car with electric windows, especially when it has electric windows in the back, if you've got a kid in the car or a dog or anything like that, it's very easy for them to step on or press the electric windows while they're hanging out the window. And I remember as kids, we would do this all the time, just hang out the window, and you know, the window could come up to here. Unfortunately, what happened was some people were actually killed by this, choking them in the back and not being able to stop it in time and whatnot, because the window would just go straight up. So in 1991, Mercedes released the new S-Class, the 1991 S-Class. I can't remember, W140 or 80, I can't, doesn't matter. So not only was this the first car with double glazing in it, other than Rolls Royces, I think. However, the difference here was over time it wouldn't steam up because it was vacuumed in the middle. It was really, really cool. Not only did it have that, it also had a sensor that if it got close enough or touched anything, it would just come back down. So now this is on every car, and I'm pretty sure it's a legal requirement to be on every car, because a lot of people got injured by not having this. But the 1991 S-Class Mercedes was the first one to have this. So number 4 is safety electric windows, and that goes to my man in Munich. So that Mercedes from 1991, the W140, also has another one on the list at number 3, and that is, of course, I know you're all waiting for it, I know you all know what it is, and I've forgotten what it is, so I'm going to look again. Soft closed doors.
Self-closing doors. No more slamming to wake the neighbours.
It is in fact soft closed doors. Now this isn't something, and maybe shouldn't be on the list because it's not something that's on like even a Ford Fiesta or anything anymore. But basically, if you buy any sort of expensive car at all nowadays, even a Tesla Model 3, I think, has this. Low-end BMWs, the 3 Series. This is trickling down, and I'm sure in 5 or 10 years it'll be on every car. But they were really way ahead on this. So in 1991, the Mercedes S-Class had soft close electric doors. So you didn't have to slam the door, you just close it and an electric motor closed it in. I'm sure you've seen this, it's on a lot of cars now. I think even some Toyotas have it. And not only was it the first one with soft closed doors, it also was the first one with an electric opening and closing boot. So it was much easier for you to throw up. You could open it with a key. But yeah, soft closed doors is one of those things that I am dying to be on cheap cars, because it always feels so expensive. You get into like a high-end Audi, or even the low-end Audis now, you can get it as an option. But it always feels so nice just to kind of close the door suddenly and not worry that you have to slam it, because there's nothing worse than you take off down the road and realize the passenger hasn't closed it and you have this little, oh, your door's open, can you... Nightmare. Hate it. So yeah, soft closed doors, number 3, introduced in 1991 on a W140. Number 2 on the list is a safety feature. Now, a lot of people that I've had car discussions with in the past for a long time thought that S-Class stood for safety class. And, you know, they had good reason for this, which is basically the S-Class was designed alongside the same team that were building the safety experiment cars. So they had a team in Mercedes that had a massive budget to experiment with safety options, because Mercedes obviously were driving a lot of very wealthy and very important people around, so safety became a massive concern. So they were designing that alongside, and when the car came out in 1972, the first S-Class, they obviously wanted to make safety a big feature. So one of the features that Mercedes introduced first, now I know a lot of people in the comments are going to say it wasn't really a first, but one of the features that Mercedes came out with first in a production car was our modern form of ABS. Now, ABS kind of had been used in different forms in one way or another in trucking and trains before. Chrysler, I think, and Chevrolet had different versions of this in their cars. However, Mercedes were the first ones to do anti-locking brake systems. So what I mean by that is four wheels connected to some sort of a computer or some sort of digital system that would figure out how to stop the wheel. So it would kind of judder and stop effectively. All of the other things before that weren't connected to all four wheels. They were separate systems. They helped a little bit. They were more along the lines of the railway systems, which would kind of spin the wheel stop, so you didn't just get this judder and skid. Now that is essentially what ABS does, but our modern inclination of ABS was first on the 1978, I have notes, 1978 Mercedes S-Class W116. At number one on the list, and again, this is going to be a lot of people doing the old, ooh, but it's not, So anyway, technically speaking, I believe Ford and Chevrolet beat them to it in some ways. So the airbag was a thing before Mercedes brought it in. So it had been patented, I think, in the 1918, and then it had been used on certain things in America because, as we all know, Americans are crazy and they didn't want to wear seatbelts, and people wearing seatbelts was a really low number in the States. And so Ford and Chevrolet started working on putting airbags in. And basically, you could then decide whether you wanted an airbag, so you didn't have to use the seatbelt, and you could switch between an airbag and a seatbelt. So that was one of the things that they did to make sure that there was one or the other option, because they were starting to get a pressure from governments and whatnot. But yeah, so essentially, Chevrolet and Ford offered airbags as an option. But it wasn't a proper system. It was just like, okay, you can either have your seatbelt or you can have something explode from the front mirror or from your steering wheel. Not great safety in those days. So Mercedes came along, and with the 1981 version of the Mercedes S-Class, they introduced as standard, even on the base model of the S-Class, and I know the base model is still hundreds of thousands probably in today's money, but anyway, they included obviously seatbelts and airbags as standard. And the whole idea was the airbag was integrated with sensors and tensioners in the seatbelt. So they were the first ones to do seatbelt pre-tensioning. And essentially the seatbelt and the airbag would work together along with their sensor systems and deploy. And they were the first ones to put that airbag system in. And as you know, nowadays, that system is legally mandated on every car pretty much worldwide. Not everyone uses a seatbelt still, especially here in Mexico. No, this isn't Mexico. This is Seattle, actually. Coronavirus has ruined it. But anyway, so now this is a standard feature. But back then it was, brought in by the Americans first, technically speaking, but Mercedes were the first ones to use the SRS airbag system. And I will tell you what SRS means, actually, because that's bugging me. SRS is not in my list. Didn't write it down. God damn it. So finally, the airbag system that they intended then finally became standard by Chrysler and some Japanese models and whatnot in 1988, so about 7 years later. But that was due to pressure from car safety groups. I want to give one last honourable mention to something that I absolutely love, and I mention it because the other day when I was driving the 2019 Seat Ibiza, I had the key in my pocket, went up, thought I left the car unlocked, but I didn't, walked up, car opened automatically, got in, was able to start it up without touching a key. Now this isn't a big deal these days, most cars have that along with the thing to close all the windows and whatnot, but Mercedes were the first ones to do this with their 2001, I believe, 2000 Mercedes S-Class. They were the first ones that came out with Smart Keyless Go, and essentially you had a little card in your pocket and it was actually a credit card style, and you could walk up. Jeremy Clarkson did a thing about it. It was amazing. You could walk up, open the door, get in, start the car without touching your key, and it's still one of those features I just love, that it's very, very lazy, but it makes sense, and I like the idea that you can just leave a key in your pocket, because you know yourself, losing keys is a big thing. If you don't need to take them out, less likely to lose them. And also, it's just fun and cool that you can just walk up, get into your car, start it. You don't need to touch anything else. So I noticed that was on the sale at Ibiza the other day, and I just thought that deserved a quick honourable mention, because that was one of the Germans' best inventions as far as I'm concerned, and it was originally on the generation 99 2000 Mercedes S-Class, and I believe that deserves an honourable mention. Thank you for watching so much, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Also, check out everything on drivetribe.com. I'm going to be writing a lot of articles next week for drivetribe.com. And it's just a fantastic website. Definitely get involved and start posting videos and articles. And, you know, it's a great way to get that out of your system. You know, because I love talking about cars, but it's not my day job. Neither is this. If you like and subscribe more, maybe it will be. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and tomorrow I'm going to be talking about some sort of supercar. I think it's the Lamborghini Aventador, and then I have another one for the next day. We're going to be talking about the new Rolls-Royce Cullinan and how it's an absolutely terrible car, followed by, I believe, a Dodge Ram review in person, hopefully, which I've recorded. And then after that, we're going to be doing a review on the Jeep Rubicon Gladiator, because it's such an awesome truck. So thanks for watching. See you guys tomorrow. Really appreciate it.